Call meeting to order of the April 14th City of Cedar Springs. If you all would rise, please, and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for attending this evening. If you have a cell phone, would you please turn it down on vibrate or off? Have a roll call. Mr. Clark. Here. Mr. Hopkins. Here. Mrs. Nixon.
Here.
Mrs. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Truesdale. Here. Mrs. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Here. Public comment in this portion of the agenda. The City Council has encouraged the public to speak during the public comment of the public hearing portion of the agenda. However, Council's policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the Council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the City Manager for action. If after communication with the City Manager no resolution is reached, the concern will be elevated to the Mayor and then eventually to the City Council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record. At this time, is there anyone wishing to, address this council? Mr. Davey.
Good evening all. Hi, Mr. Davey, I'm with CVDP. A couple things I wanted to point out. We're cleaning up on the north side of the creek up there. There is a lot of junk out there. But Dale Larson, just so you all know, but this is typical Cedar Springs, Dale has donated 2 workers for 4 days and 2 more for another day, cutting out on there and picking up and cleaning up. And we've got a lot of stuff down that we're going to be taking care of, by the way, this Saturday. John Ensley, who's a local boy here also, works for HRC perchance, is in charge of that for us. And he's got, Perry says 40, I heard 25, but they got people, employees from HRC coming up. The Aquinas girls hockey team is coming up, plus others, so we should have a good time, and we're just going to have a little social afterwards, probably over to the brewery. So that's going on this Saturday. Also, to go along with that brush cleanup, I want to thank Tom and his group there. It was not our intent for you guys to take that brush out there. I talked to Al and said I'd heard you guys were going to have this brush cleanup aspect thing. And I said I could have kept you guys on there for 2 or 3 days straight with that. But Dale was just stacking the stuff up there so I could come in and take it away to the tractor and loader when we got into it. But Tom, thank you very much for your group taking care of that. It's a big thing. The other aspect of it is I also found out that Marty's group and whoever all he has working with him on that fire on the house up there at 157 North, they found out who that was. And they contacted us to see if we wanted to press charges farther, and we have not, knowing what it was, and it was handled officially. So, Marty, thank you for your group also. But once again, it's a lot of fun watching things come together here in Cedar Springs and all the people stepping forward and all things that are going on. It's a blast. You brought up the aspect of the insect study. I know they're trying to get the schools involved with that also, which is really kind of cool. All right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address Mr. Ross?
First off, the event over at the high school with Attorney General Shue was fantastic. He went into a 3rd grader's class and spent some time reading in there and complimented Mrs. Gold for kids that could read so well, and then he challenged them to read every day so they could be successful. So that was kind of neat. But anyway, and the program that OK to Say is a fantastic program. I'm glad that Laura invited the Attorney General to come and start that program. It's going to be beneficial to all the kids.
Yes.
The thing I wanted to bring to your attention, I know that we're going over the special events, I don't know what you call it, form, whatever. And one of the things in there has to do with insurance. And an insurance policy has a declaration page, an insuring agreement, exclusion, and conditions. I think we're all kind of familiar with those. If you're not, I got an NAIC thing here just to kind of remind us what that is. And I also found something that talked a little bit about, it was a insurance Mythbusters, kind of based on the TV Mythbusters thing. And the question they had here, I kind of stumbled across this article, but it was good. It asked, does general liability cover you for special events? And a lot of times you look at the general liability declaration page and you think, oh no, we're fine. But these guys brought up some good things that maybe your special event goes above and beyond what your normal general operating liability is, and talked about a lot of the things that were different from your day-to-day operations as opposed to a general liability. So, and then I found a couple of court cases that specifically went into, this one is Scottsdale Insurance Company versus Chinese Consulate Benevolent Association, which is a group of do some dancing and whatnot at activities. They actually purchased a short-term policy to cover the parade and the other activities of the association that was sponsoring this event. The plaintiffs were injured while participating as drummers and dancers in a group of Chinese lion dancers. The trial court found that the insurer was not responsible for their injuries because the policy included a special event participation exclusion that excluded liability coverage for bodily injury, property damage, or personal injury to any participant arising out of or participating for any person in an athletic event, contest, game, demonstration, exhibition. The Court of Appeals found that such an exclusion was not unusual, was not unambiguous. The court held the parade was a demonstration or an exhibition, was excluded by the policy, and thus their claims were not covered.
We're rewriting our special event forms. Could you get that to Mrs. Christensen? So.
But that was one. Then there was another one, Nautilus Company versus Jesse James Festival.
Yeah.
It was a rodeo for 2 successive days. It was sponsored by this festival. The plaintiff participated in what the court described as an event called the Circle of Fear, in which members of the audience were given the opportunity to don a flak jacket, sign a release form, and enter in this circle chalk area, the rodeo arena, and then they let a rodeo bull go, and if you could get away whatever, you got $100. So he got $100 the first day, but on the second day, he was butted, kicked, and thrown 20 feet by the bull and received many serious injuries. The special events liability endorsement insurance policy that was obtained. Anyway, the insurance companies have lots of money and lots of power.
Although you sign a release form.
Right, I'm just saying, there's a lot of things I don't think that we've actually considered that maybe we should be looking into to make sure that if something were to happen.
Yeah, sure.
And
if you can give that stuff to Mrs. Christensen there.
I just want to make sure that we cover ourselves.
Yeah, sure.
Good.
I know that
Your time's.
my time's almost up. I know that if you do if you're serving alcohol, the state makes you get a $250,000 one to cover the state, so they don't, because they give you the license.
We'll have our attorney look
Anyway,
all this stuff.
just more stuff, that's all. I just want to make sure we're doing
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank
Thanks
you.
for that research, though.
You bet. Thank
It's
you.
good information.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, make sure that Linda gets that.
Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to, we have no public hearings. And on number 5, adoption of the agenda. We have a change.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the agenda with the change as presented, other than changing action item A to a discussion item H from 8 to 7.
A? You said A
A.
or B?
B.
Oh, B, sorry.
Okay.
Right, sorry. B.
B will be moved up to H on
H.
discussion.
And then C will become D.
All right, okay.
D will become, everything else will move up.
Is there support? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the Senate agenda as presented with changes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. That is accepted. And the consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 10, 2016, the special meeting of March 28, 2016. B, the approval of checks paid, 38,6 60 through 38,749 totaling $128,631. Electronic transfers totaling $597.43. The total of checks and transfers is $129,970.74.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Now, change the money to a roll call vote. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, motion carries. Consent agenda. Moving on to discussion items. Item A, Citizens United Forum. We have discussed this last year, or last month,
That's 2 months.
last 2 months, okay, I was going to one, and we're having it back. If there's any discussion, I think, if my research was right, the city's charter tells us to be a nonpartisan group. So it's kind of the will of the council here.
I have some evidence that I looked up today.
Okay.
So the argument was put out there that this was a partisan issue, that it pertained more to Republicans than it did to Democrats. So I did a brief Google today and found a publicly run website with how much, as of March 21st, had been spent by or on behalf of any certain candidate. So Hillary Clinton, as of March 21st, had either spent or had spent on her behalf $25 million more than Bernie Sanders. At this time, she happens to have the lead. I also looked up the Republicans. Ted Cruz has outspent any of his competitors by $60 million and is favored at this time to be the Republican nominee. John Kasich spent only had spent on his behalf $24 million, and Donald Trump had spent on his behalf $35 million. So I think that you can see in the Republicans, money tends to be a precursor to who's doing well in the race, and it does as well on the Democrat side. Now, I, as a middle-class working person, could certainly never contribute millions of dollars, but to allow a company like General Motors or Pepsi or any company, not saying that they have or have not contributed to these people, that has very deep pockets to use their money to influence the vote, I think is unconscionable. I think that Citizens United was the wrong way to go, and I would really like to see this council pass a resolution in opposition so that our state representatives can address this.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Proceed.
I know one of the concerns on the table is that this is somehow a partisan issue, but the specific ruling is a Supreme Court ruling. And the Supreme Court is nonpartisan. This is, well, I mean, you can advocate they are, they aren't, or they're conservative, or they're liberal, or do you like this, or you don't like this, but they hold positions that are nonpartisan. They are appointed for life by whoever the sitting president is, approved with consent and approval of the Senate, and they do not have an R or a D after their name. And when they make a decision, it's the law of the land. And if we, as a local municipality or a state or a county or a whatever the level of government might be, don't have the authority to weigh in on that because at some place there's a party attached, at some point we have no ability to have any conversation about anything. I mean, that's my position on this. I don't see it as a partisan issue. And the idea that we can have unlimited amounts of money not attached to specific people, because that's really what Citizens United is about. So the corporations become people and the people become free speech. That you can create a super PAC and give unlimited amounts of money to support any candidate for any purpose seems inherently undemocratic to me. That's my position on it. And I mean democratic with a small d, in the sense of representative, not democratic with a capital D.
Okay.
So, right. So I mean, I just have a difficult time. I mean, agree or disagree, I have a difficult time with the idea that this is somehow a partisan issue.
Well, I agree there's too much big money in politics, and I don't know who voted this super PAC in.
Supreme Court.
So,
Supreme Court ruling.
so how can we change this mind of the Supreme Court? So if that's a long way down the road.
Well,
Congress
One at a
still
time,
will-
one at a time. Ms. Powell, you still have the floor. Mr. Clark?
I agree that what Molly said, that the amount of money that's being spent in politics is outlandish, but it's on both sides.
mm-hmm.
We do have a voice as individuals, so even as a community or as a council, we don't have a voice. We still have that individual voice. What makes me still think that there's a real divide between the liberal and conservative side. I stayed away from Republican and Democrat in my explanation because it's more liberal Democrat. When you look at the history of corporations in the United States and how the courts have treated them, when the liberal judges, and I'm talking about Supreme Court rulings, when the liberal judges have said, well, we need to protect free speech for corporations, the conservatives said, no, they're on the other side. And then when the rules get reversed, dealing with the very same thing. Can we deal with corporations as individuals? That's why they were created in Roman times.
Okay.
So the point I'd like to make is not only do we have a historical connection to separation of conservative and liberal on either side of the issue, which makes a divide, I also think that we have the constitutional amendment as a solution is far-reaching. It's like the old minister used to say, we're shooting cannonballs at canaries. We should go after this. Just like the folks who were representing the government in the case of Citizens United, they were trying to say that the shareholders need to be protected. Yet, they made the mistake of saying 30 to 60 days before. If they were protecting the shareholders, they shouldn't have included that. This was the government attorneys. And then the other issue was the idea that if we're going to say corporations of any kind have to be given away, that they can't give money, what are we going to do about the media? You're going to have to say the same thing about the media. I think they can make a case, go back to the Supreme Court, and win. They just presented it.
They have to do that. Thank you. You have four, no, you already had your 4 minutes.
But I have a pertinent response.
Mr. Rock.
Well, my thoughts on it was that the previous election where it was Obama against Romney, I was not in very good favor with the way a lot of my fellow Americans was looking at the candidacy. Because the only ones that was really highlighted was Republican and Democrat. But then when you get the election polls, there's 5 candidates on there.
Or more.
Well, there was 5. So that was. But the bottom 3 never got the publicity. And if there is a law or a ruling that makes it so that happens, that it's all about the almighty dollar for who's going to get elected, I would just see that first. That's my 2.5 cents.
Okay. You.
I think I'd have a tendency to agree with Molly. That's about all I'd have to say.
Thank you.
You said you'd bring the toast.
Mayor, mine has, this has been going on for centuries. Our state I think a year ago, tried to put a gag order on us that we couldn't speak before any election coming up, and that was overturned. Having said that, what's the will of the council?
So we'll try again. I would like to make a motion to send, to support our senators and our state representatives addressing this at a state level, that we are opposed to Citizens United, Citizens United, as previously presented.
Support?
Okay, moved, seconded. Is there any further discussion?
You're not supporting the constitutional amendment
That's what was presented.
That is what was presented. It's,
then? Okay.
it's
But that's not
our,
what you said.
She said
Well,
as presented.
clarification.
Presented where?
as presented in previous meetings. I do not have the precise verbiage in front of me.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Do we need that for it to be official so that we know what we're fully voting on?
I believe so, Mrs.
So I can,
Because that may be Dan's voting based on he's taking it.
Let's, I would ask the motion maker and the seconder to withdraw theirs, and then to have next month's meeting, if that's doable, come up with
the precise
proper
verbiage.
verbiage and motion or resolution.
Okay.
Is that
Okay.
agreeable?
I would be agreeable to that.
Sure.
Okay, then we'll have it on the agenda as an action item for next month. Because I don't think we want to incorporate that into our 21st meeting.
No.
That's a closed session, a special meeting, and
Yes.
I really don't want to
Yeah.
clutter that up.
The actual language was presented. I mean, if we go back and look,
Well, we need to have it.
Well,
that's
Yeah.
fine, but I'm just saying, if you go back and look, that actual language,
So you want the same resolution?
I think so, yeah. Advocating for a constitutional amendment at the state level.
Okay. Next month, we'll have that on for
And several
action.
states have signed on already.
Okay. Any other?
All Democrat
Okay.
states?
We're all set, move on.
Okay.
Okay, item B, moving on, board review determination regarding the city's properties. We lost.
What is the time frame on when we would need to, if we're going to appeal this, which I, for what it's worth, I feel like we should. What is the time frame that we would need to decide to do that?
I would have to check with Jason. I know that the tax tribunal meets late in the year, I believe.
Okay,
Okay.
so we have a
Well,
little bit of time?
You have time, but I don't know if there's a,
Okay. Basically, we have 6 parcels that he has deemed that are taxable.
the board of review
The
being.
board of review, the tax assessor ultimately put them on. In our appeals, we've lost. So, I guess the first step would be, what's the will of the council? And it sounds like we want to get on the agenda for the tax review board for the county,
Do you need a motion?
for discussion purposes.
So, a lot of it sounds like if we just put up a sign that says, open to the public from X time to X time, then it meets the requirement for not being taxable. And since there's a cost to go to the tribunal, although I don't know what it is, it may be cheaper and better in the long run to just put up some signs.
Okay, I've been directed that's not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, it's what direction we want to take next.
Mr. Mayor, may I add to what Molly said?
You may.
In my discussions with Jason earlier, months ago, when I suggested those kinds of things, park benches or signs, that was not adequate.
Oh.
At that time, now maybe that position has changed, but in talking to other assessors, they said it should, in their opinion.
In talking with him that there's no clear definition of that as being public property for the benefit of the community. We have and we can beat this all night. One of them has a drain ditch going down and over on Fifth Street. And the other one is, the big portion is the flood area off at the end of Ash and Elm and Cherry. The land that was donated to the city by an investment group. We have the Pine Street property we merged with the Community Building Development Team to make a suitable building lot, which I think our intent was to donate it to Habitat once that transaction happened. And then there's some other parcels here, and I'm not all of them. Anyway, what's the will of the council? Ms. Bell?
I talked to Jason about the acreage over east of town,
Yes.
and he told me that could be easily turned into a sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary, and a simple sign.
Yes.
We talked about being a watershed.
Yep. It's on the wetlands map for the county wetlands.
Or we could donate it to the DNR or something, I don't know. We can't use it for anything other than what it's there for right now.
That's how we got it. The developers couldn't build on it because it's too wet and swampland. It's designated as wetlands. And it actually holds back the water from the east side of town going into Main Street.
So that's for the good of the community.
Well,
Apparently not according to the,
so, anyway,
Do we know the cost of Winfield?
I'm not aware of it. I have,
Is that 16-acre site?
yes. I have one resident that said she would represent us in this. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
You may?
What if we were to do both? Put up a sign, or 12, and appeal.
What's the will of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I actually like the idea of doing both. But for the layman person that has no idea that that's city property, and may inquire if they're doing some kind of a bug study, frog study, bird study, it may give them that opportunity to go look at that property if they think it's open to the public, versus if there's no signage saying that it's public property, they may think it's somebody's personal property and not want to risk trespassing
Yeah.
legality.
We would
So in a sense, it does, putting the signs up, it does serve the community, but also if it helps us not have to pay, potentially have to pay the taxes to ourselves.
Oh, it's not so much paying the tax to ourselves. It goes to the county.
County.
Then we get a third back. The county keeps it. I guess my question is, Kent County owns this piece of property right out here next to Advanced Auto. They don't pay taxes. From all that research I found out, the state of Michigan is exempt from paying taxes, but Kent County is not, and obviously we are not.
If I may, the board of review decision for the Oak Street property, per legal counsel, there should be evidence, i.e. signage or maps open to the public.
Yep.
So I think that is one that if you put a sign on,
How many?
one would be what I would think. I don't know that there's
Well,
a
that's,
number.
yeah.
How much does a sign cost? Do we know?
Well, we have a post and the sign, what's the sign supposed to say, I guess, other than,
Open to the public property.
I can check with
12:01
Jason to see what the proper
11:59.
language would be.
well, okay, that's another issue, okay. Okay.
And just to be clear, has he changed his position then, that a sign solves it?
No, not, I
No,
don't.
but the
Because
board
I
review
asked
see it
him
differently.
about this, and he said he didn't think a sign would solve it.
Maybe we ought to get him in here again and talk to him.
Okay.
different properties may have a different, results, as far as his mind goes. This one works, this property works with the sign, the Skyhawks area on West Street doesn't. I don't know, maybe they all do.
Well, we need a little more clarification if we're gonna put signage up. I'd hate to invest in signs and then not have that solve the problem.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we, have Linda speak with, Jason to see what kind of signage and where the signage would be effective, and,
Come in.
how many, and, also to find out what it would cost to do the tribunal appeal.
Yeah, do we even need a motion for
It's
that?
been moved and
Do you
seconded.
need a motion for that, or can you just say, give us some information?
You can just direct the city manager to do that, and that's our request.
That's fine.
Okay, is that doable for everyone?
Yeah,
Yes.
and then come back with the money and the signage and the possibilities, and then we can make a decision in May?
Yes, and if the deadline for the tribunal is before our next meeting, you can let us know. We may have to do something, a special meeting.
Well, the 21st, if anything, quickly.
Okay.
How about this? I make a motion that if the deadline for the
We have a,
tribunal,
excuse me a minute, just to clarify things, point of order. We have a motion on the floor.
You have
Mr.
a
Clark's motion is on the floor,
Yes,
and I do not believe it was seconded.
it was not.
I'll support it.
Okay, you supported Mr. Clark's motion. Okay, we have to vote on that up or down, one way or another, or retract it. Okay, just so everybody's on board with that.
Mr. Mayor, may I add one bit of information there? Share that.
Do we need to give this to the clerk?
Yes, it says
Deadline for appeal to the state 30 ways.
The 30th of May.
oh,
So,
Well,
just
that
to
makes
clarify, is the
Yeah,
30th of May the application deadline, or the day
Well,
that you
currently,
Yes, we have,
point of order here, we have a motion on the floor. Would you read your motion? And we'll call for a vote. Before I call for the vote, we'll have a discussion. We're getting all over the place
I would
here.
that the manager investigate with Jason the amount of signage, the verbiage on the signage, and the cost of the appealing to the tribunal.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and everybody familiar with that motion. Discussion. Hearing none.
Rose.
Yes.
I would like to see Jason come in personally and address us. You know, it's up to the board.
Oh.
I'd like to be able to talk to him.
Well, that's, okay. Any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor to direct the manager to find out when the tribunal is, what the cost will be for the signage and how many and all the above. Everybody comfortable with that? I'm going to call for a vote. Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell,
Yes,
Mrs. Nixon,
yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
And Mr. Hall votes yes. Motion carries. Okay. Now, we're still on that. Any other discussion or debates on this? Okay.
I have one question, Mr. Mayor. Do we need, if we're going to have a citizen, Charlie Kinder has offered to help represent the city, do you need a motion for that to happen?
Well,
Will we
first,
do that at the next meeting?
we didn't make the decision to go to the tribunal.
Right, but if we were going to include her in any of the discussions.
Well, if we make the motion to go to the tribunal, then we would have to definitely add that. For sake of discussion.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to ask the acting manager, Mrs. Christensen, if you would go to Kent County, get a list from them of all the properties that the county owns that pays taxes to itself, and what rule they use to justify the taxation and how much they pay. Is that
Guidelines?
our guidelines? I guess if they have to pay taxes, we do too.
And if they don't,
well, we'll get that paperwork and then we can move on from there. Anyway. Any other discussion on this? Okay, moving on to item C, update of the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Mr. Preston.
I'm a bit old today.
We all.
I have to apologize that these replacements that are in your packet, I should have done a agenda item on, because they are city funds that are going to be expended on these 3 items. It's up to you if you want to do them tonight, or if you want to, they're not critical, so.
were they budgeted? Were they budgeted?
This is the capital expense.
Okay, so yeah,
So, yeah, they were in the CIP but,
And that was 65,000, or had that number been changed? The capital expense budgeted, 66.5?
yep,
Okay,
of which we haven't used any yet this year.
okay.
Okay. Okay. And just explain to us what you're asking for, if you would please.
I believe it's the air conditioning unit replacement. I didn't pull it up on the
That
Still,
for the waste,
wastewater treatment.
okay. Well,
I can pull it up on a computer.
we got, it's a still,
The still? Yep.
and,
okay, you have a,
temporary feed pumps and power feed pumps.
okay, great. You know,
Sorry, I thought I had those with my packet here. But, yep, the still. What the still does is produces laboratory quality water for our
testing.
testing.
3 paired feed pumps and a polymer feed. These are the chemicals that are introduced into the system. These are the pumps that introduce them. And motor pump rebuild.
The motor pump rebuild was the big items. And there's
Yeah.
2 of them, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
So that,
Basically, we have one on us in spare. So what we're going to do is take that one off the shelf and put that one in service, and then rebuild the other, get new ones for the other 2, and then we will still have 2 on the shelf once we get those rebuilt.
Is backup.
I see in here they're replacing the mechanical seals with the new latest greatest
Yeah,
upgrade.
no more leaking.
That too. Are they doing anything with the wheels? Impeller.
Oh, with the impellers?
They're-
Yeah, they all get redone, or new impellers when the,
Okay. Are they ceramic them now, or what are their latest greatest
for the
motors?
impellers, they're still metal.
Pardon?
They're still metal.
Okay. You know, this stuff is pretty important stuff to the plant, so it's the council's wishes, if they wish, to expedite this or move it up. To vote on it this evening.
I have no problem voting on it.
It was budgeted.
Yeah.
It
It
is
was in the
budgeted.
plan.
Okay.
So it's technically, this is the second time it's come before council.
More than.
More than that, as the mayor said.
But,
Yeah, all of these items were in the
Right.
CIP.
and it is, he did have them in the packet too. I guess what type of a motion would we need to address this?
What's the dollar figure?
48,000.
Listen,
40, isn't it 46,600?
I would suggest that you vote on them individually, because each one of them has several
Correct.
bids, or one
Okay.
of them has.
Do you
All right.
want like 3 different motions?
Yeah, we just gotta get them right. Cole Farmer, that's the,
The
Little
motion on the
laboratory
still
still.
class, Tom Preston, So Tom, just to get a figure of where we are now as far as the loan money, and then we'll come to the budgeted, money. So we had,
Okay,
I
still.
talked to Debbie, we had $264,113 to spend from the loan.
Yep.
And we, according to what I've got down here, if we do all three actuators and pumps, are we doing all three now, do you know? What's the plan?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be $249,195, leaving that $15,000 about in that fund?
Yeah, what I tried to do is keep us $10,000 underneath the cap,
Okay, good.
just so we had a little cushion. So we're getting close to it, and once we get all the bills so that we're under what we had, we'll see exactly what we have left over, and maybe there's something small that we can take care of to use up the rest of it, because there's still a lot of things that need to be replaced up there.
So there will still be $10,000 left in the budget fund too, then?
By the time we're done, yeah, there should be, because I think we had 260, and I set the number at 250.
Super.
On here, Tom, you have your motor pumps coming from Blue Book, or the pumps for your ferric chloride. And I'm scrolling through this.
Blue Book.
Yep. And then you have Richland, for,
Richmond does all of the.
yes.
The motor pumps we do?
They're very, very good company, folks. I've worked for them.
We
Okay.
really don't send them anywhere else, because Richland doesn't charge us to just look at it and say, this is wrong. What they, and other companies, if I sent it to another company, they would have to give me a quote on what's wrong with that pump and what it would cost to rebuild it. I send it, ship it to another company, they're gonna tell me what it costs to rebuild it. And I'm paying shipping and a person to look at that thing 3 times to get 3 bids. So we are very comfortable with Richland Machine. They do a great job, so we just send them there.
Is there any labor to get those pumps off and shipped? It's not considered in this amount?
No, usually either Russ Johnson or Gary Osborne will just run them down there.
Oh, okay.
Usually Russ, because he's running around the whole
Yeah,
state.
they're doing a real great deal. Okay. If I did this right, I have a motion to purchase the still from USA Blue Book in the amount of $5,164.98.
Second. Is that a motion?
No, I can't take
He's
one.
asking for a motion.
Oh, you're asking.
I will make a motion as the mayor presented.
Second.
And who seconded that?
Dan.
Mr. Clark. Okay, is there any discussion on that? There is?
They really need a sip.
Well, they use a lot of distilled water.
You should see how this one's
This is
rigged.
taped together and it's
A
done.
little spit and glue and some gum.
Oh, man, that's, any other discussion? Seeing how money is involved here, I'll roll call vote. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale? Mrs. Clark? And excuse me, Mrs. Conley.
Yes.
My
I'm
mind,
sorry, I wasn't sure.
I thought I said-
sorry, Donna. Mr. All votes yes. My meds are wearing off.
It's okay.
Okay. Our second one
We'll start
is,
with me.
2 ferric chloride pumps.
3.
3 ferric chloride pumps from, I believe, USA Blue Book.
And 3 ferret pumps and a polymer feed pump, which
And-
is the same type.
Okay. So we're talking basically, what, 4 pumps? Tom?
4 pumps.
Okay, from USA Blue.
Yep.
In the amount of $1,865.08.
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? Mrs. Powell,
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon,
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, the motion carries. Now, the next one is a motion, and I didn't get the dollar amounts, I believe.
25,750?
Okay, 25.
Are you making a motion?
I will.
How much is the change?
I want to be sure that's right.
I'm sorry?
That is right, 25,750 dollars.
And no cents?
No.
Okay, and that is to Richland Machine?
Yes. And that's reconditioning 3 of the 4
Of the rotating assemblies.
motive pumps, 3 of the 4 motive pumps.
Okay, for 25, I would entertain a motion for $25,750.01 for Richland Machine for the repurposing or remanufacturing of rotating assemblies for the pump.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve $25,750 for the reconditioning of the pumps.
Second?
Any motion on the floor, moved and seconded, is there any discussions? Hearing none, we will do a roll call vote. Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell,
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
and Ms. Hall votes yes, motion carries.
And again, I apologize for not having formatted correctly. It was one of those weeks.
It was in here, but thank you.
Yep.
Now, don't we want to include the grid system rebuild, or is
A
that?
motor pump rebuild for the wastewater facility for the grip or something. Was there
One of those weeks.
Motive pump rebuild.
12,995.
Oh, grid system, yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Oh, grip system rebuild, and you have a quote from CWD Drives Inc.
$12,995.54.
Okay, that's for the rebuild of the grip.
The grid system removes the larger particles from the system. And
It's so much fun talking about
Sand.
sand.
this is also going to be sealed, so there's no more leaking on the floor.
Oh, yeah. That's so much fun.
Tasty.
You know, this is going to be done, all this rebuilding will be done on site?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, I won't go, yeah. You could tell what was in season at McDonald's
Oh dear.
by the toys.
You don't want to look
Okay, moving on. We, for $1, I'd entertain a motion from CW Drive Inc. for the rebuild of the grit system for amount of $12,995.54.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded.
Thank you for keeping me straight.
Okay,
It's been a long day.
been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on rebuilding of the grit separator at the wastewater facility?
It just sounds like you lose some entertainment if it's all sealed.
No,
No?
especially if it's malfunction.
You don't want to go in there.
I bet.
It's aromatic.
It's not the break room.
Okay, moving on. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon? Mrs. Nixon?
He's
You're
not here.
getting me,
On his behalf, yes.
You did great.
Thank you kindly. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you all.
Like I said, my drugs are wearing out. Okay, moving on.
Tell me if
May I
you need to
interrupt
take
you for
over.
a moment?
Pardon?
May I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in the interest of putting this to bed, page 19 of our agenda packet is the actual resolution for Citizens United. If I could beg your indulgence for 5 seconds, we can get this out of the way and never have to talk about it again.
Are you sure? In other words, the point of order you're bringing up that go back to item A on discussion.
Yes,
2-page.
is on page 19, and I will read
Okay.
it, and we'll be done.
We need, you need a copy of that resolution, Mr. Kristen Nord.
While I'm trying to find my page 19.
Okay. resolved that the blank of
Would you
blank
like me to
laws.
read it?
Oh, for the general public, go
This
ahead.
little thing, this is this one?
Yes,
Yes.
that one.
Okay, Mrs.
Resolved that the city of Cedar Springs calls upon our Michigan state legislators to call for a state resolution to the United States Congress to propose and send to the state for ratification a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission and to restore constitutional rights and fair elections to the people. And be it further resolved that the clerk for the city of Cedar Springs transmit copies of this resolution to the state senator for the 28th district, the state representative for the 74th House District, and the majority leader of the Michigan House of Representatives, the minority leader of the Michigan House of Representatives, and the majority leader of the Michigan Senate, and the minority leader of the Michigan Senate.
I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Who wants to second that?
Doesn't matter. I'm
Pam,
second.
got it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Have a roll call vote. Mr. Clark?
No.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
The mayor all votes no. Motion carries. We're done.
And we will never speak of it again.
Other than Mrs. Christensen, could you notify the young man that was seeking that action on behalf of Kent County, who was also in contact with Representative Verheulen and Senator McGregor, that this action occurred? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're in, back down to
What page?
recording. Item D, policy amendment, recording council minute meetings, or council meetings policy. We're down to page 34. In the upper right corner. Left corner. Okay, Ms. Christian?
This is basically making a few amendments to the council meetings recording policy. It will now be known as the recording public meetings policy. And we're adding to it Planning Commission, Downtown Development Authority, and Zoning Board of Appeals meetings, as well as council meetings. And everywhere where you see council, that word has been stricken. And under availability, item B, the recordings identified in A above shall be made available to the public within 5 business days following the completion of a meeting. That's just about all it
Okay.
entails.
I'd just like to say, Madam Manager Special Clerk, that the mechanism for creating this document with the striking and the color, I find very useful. So thank you for that.
For the sake of discussion, I'd entertain a motion. I think that's what we need, or is this an adoption?
This is a
Just a
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay,
You'll act on it next month.
okay.
I think you did a great job on that, and really appreciate it. But I have a question on, is the brownfield supposed to be part of a council?
DDA,
That's part of the DDA, so it will be recorded.
done. Mr. Clark?
Did we ever discuss, or have we had information about any extra costs to recording all the meetings compared to only recording the council meeting? I don't know if I ever heard that.
I don't think there's any additional cost
There's no
involved.
additional cost from the council?
I know there was discussion on cloud width or bandwidth or something.
I think we have that issue straightened out.
Okay, great.
I guess you
Mr.
could talk
Hopkins,
about
you have
where it's
anything?
on camera, maybe, I don't know.
Mr. Truesdale?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, moving on to item E, policy, technology use, and email policies. Another,
This is a brand new policy. We don't have any policy for the city regarding the use of communications such as email, the website, or computers. So this is really a compilation of a number of ones that are in use throughout the state. And we're basically just talking about the use of, general use of computers, the network security, internet use, email use, and I believe website use. It's pretty self-explanatory, straightforward. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, any questions you have?
I don't have anything to add, but I think we all have to realize this is a living document, and with technology moving back and forth all the time, we always have to be prepared to add or subtract something.
I do appreciate, Linda, you coming up with some language to create a policy for this, being that we kind of didn't have this. So the idea of getting something down,
Long overdue.
I appreciate it.
The only thing you might want to look at in the coming months when I retire, under website use, we have the city manager and city clerk as the designees to work on the website. I don't know if you're going to, how you're going to handle that. You might want to amend that at a later time.
Good point.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
reverse this one. Oh, okay, this way. Is there anything in this, Linda, that deals with the emails that are on the city's email website that we communicate on, or is this strictly what's going on in the office here?
This is anybody.
Everybody.
Well, your emails at home are strictly on your own.
But I mean, on the city, our email website.
I think there's only like 2 of you that use it.
Yeah, you have to abide by these rules.
Right. It's just
For
basically
storage,
city staff.
who has access to it, I don't know, is that dealt with?
The only way we could get into it would be to have our IT person try to retrieve it. And I know that in one of the FOIA requests that I was getting from Mr. Powley, he wanted emails, and some of them had been erased or whatever. I think we all try to keep our email down to a workable level, and he said that it's really very difficult to retrieve anything. It can be done, but it would be costly and time involved.
Don't send emails. Mr., you all set?
I am.
Mr. Anybody would?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yep. It's something that is, like Ms. Powell stated, it's a working document. We'll have to do some amendments possibly down the road. So, moving on. Okay, technology. Item F, policy, visiting municipal facilities policy.
This one I'm sure you'll have some comments on. I knew you wanted to have an open door policy, and basically I just put down what we ask people to do right now, which is to contact the city manager should they want to have a visit to a municipal facility, and the city manager makes those arrangements, or if the city manager isn't available, a department head would take care of that. But I know that you have some sensitivity to this issue as well, and so I'm sure that you might have some direction on how you would like to see this go.
Okay. Mr. Clark, we'll start with you.
Well, this kind of brings me back to 2 years ago that the leadership policy was put in place, approximately.
And that's where I took some of the language from?
Yes. And I made sort of a motion about it at the time, and it was passed 4-3 at that time. 3 of us on the council now voted against it. I would like to see us consider a more general revision of that whole document. But for right now, I would like to emphasize the fact that the very first line of the leadership policy that this first party statement by Cedar Springs operates under a city manager form of government. If you've taken an MML class or you've been looking anywhere at forms of government in the state of Michigan, you know that there really is no such thing as a city manager form of government.